All right, so we have some news to talk about. If you had Matt Rhule as your first head coach to get fired, you are, collecting those bets now because Matt Rhule has been fired as the Carolina Panthers head coach, which, it's interesting, right? You definitely do have to feel kind of bad for Panthers fans as there was a lot of optimism after Matt Rhule's first season. If you remember, we kind of, looking back at it now, listen, the 11-27 record, definitely not spectacular, but, there was a lot of optimism. This is someone who seemingly in his second year in college was constantly, taking programs over and making them look way better. Temple worked out very well. Baylor worked out very well. Had a lot of success at the college level, but here in the NFL with the Panthers, there's just no getting around it. It did not work out in his tenure, and definitely, I'm always surprised when someone gets fired in a situation like this because it's like, what did you think was going to happen this year? Did you think that Matt Rhule was going to somehow turn this team around? Maybe just felt like you should give him another opportunity. I don't know, but that's definitely something it's a surprise to me. Listen, Matt Rhule did a lot very well for in college, and I think that he's gonna, people will definitely go out to try to make sure they sign him in college. But it still is one of those things that's fascinating. Of the Panthers had this new owner who is this rich for NFL owner standards. He goes out. He pays Matt Rhule. I believe Matt Rhule is still owed $40 million now at this point, which is definitely pretty fascinating. But he goes out and he pays Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule was the big fish in the coaching hire. Everyone thought, oh, this could be the guy. And even though their first year didn't go as planned necessarily, they kind of were a team that was the scrappy underdogs who stayed competitive in a lot of games that people didn't think that they would be able to stay competitive in. So even though their record wasn't very good, it kind of felt like, hey, stuck with Teddy Bridgewater, maybe they can make things work better. And it is kind of an example of, if you don't figure out the quarterback position, you are not long for this world. I'm not saying there weren't other issues. There absolutely were. But definitely the quarterback position was kind of the main thing that Rhule could never figure out. They tried to go with, Teddy Bridgewater that first season. They then tried to go with a Sam Darnold, which was, that was the decision that kind of cost him his job, right? If they draft Mac Jones, who knows what happens, but that was an option. That's what I was telling them. That's what I was saying they should have done at that number 8 overall pick. They decided not to do that. They instead, stuck with Sam Darnold. They believed in Sam Darnold, and that was a decision that, at the time, again, people liked that decision. There's going to be revisionist history. People are going to say, oh, what a dumb decision that was. But at the time, there was actually some people who really liked Darnold and thought that he could be successful. That was a legitimate thing. And so when they went out and made that call, well, yes, it seemed like an insane thing to do in hindsight. And, at the time, there was actually some people that agreed with it and liked that decision. So what's fascinating is we're going to see Steve Wilkes is going to be the interim head coach, who should be fascinating, I suppose. I believe, unless I'm remembering wrong, I believe he is the head coach who was with the Falcons, or not Falcons, the Cardinals had a year with them as a head coach, and that was the Josh Rosen year that did not go as planned there. So, another opportunity for him to potentially get an opportunity to be a head coach. And yes, I just double checked, he was there. So, good for him, I suppose. We'll see how that works out. But as a whole, this Panthers organization, it's just tough. You're in a tough spot here at this point for the Panthers. And I don't really know where you go from here. I think you ripped the Band-Aid off. You said, this isn't going to work out. I'm sure there's optimism for the Panthers because, hey, maybe we can get a new head coach next year. And, you have a draft pick. You have more draft picks next year because obviously, last year they had their number 6th overall draft pick, but then they didn't have another pick until like 120. So in this situation, it sucks that, Matt Corral is out for the season because it would have been nice to at least put him in there, see what he can do. That would have been, again, it would have been exciting. You took a flyer on him, kind of made the right move of you got, a big prospect in Akeem Ekwonu and then still got a flyer quarterback. You went out and you got Baker Mayfield. I think they handled this year the correct way. Again, you weren't going to get a superstar quarterback to walk through those doors. So do what you can to patch things up in a weak quarterback class. I thought that all that was smart. I thought all that made sense. The issue, of course, is that just none of those options worked out. And, at a certain point, you can't just cheap out on quarterbacks. You have to go out and try to find, try to really pay for a quarterback. It takes a lot of assets, but it works. But again, there's more issues at play here than just the quarterback situation. While we can blame the quarterback's situation all we want, the reality is Baker Mayfield has gone to the playoffs before. So you can be successful in the NFL with Baker Mayfield. And listen, Baker Mayfield then, it might be a different quarterback than Baker Mayfield now. Maybe that's fair to say. But the point is that you can be successful even if you don't have a superstar quarterback. You can be successful with just a, okay quarterback if you can do other stuff well. And this Panthers team, especially on offense, just kind of felt very, very predictable. I still think about 3 weeks into last season, it felt like the Panthers were going to be good. Felt like they were on the right track with the Sam Darnold. People were doing their victory laps. I talked about how some people believed in Sam Darnold. People were doing their victory laps 3 weeks into last season about how well Sam Darnold is. They said Matt Rhule, he knows what he's doing. I mean, that looked like things were going well. But it just wasn't enough. I mean, again, the reality is with this kind of stuff, it's hard to win football games at the NFL level. But just because you get off to a hot start, you also have to be able to have adjustments. And it felt like once they figured out that Joe Brady's scheme last year, from that point to now, Matt Rhule never had any answers. He got rid of Joe Brady, still never had any answers. And so I get why he's fired. Again, if you had a great head coach, what's your record here? I don't know. But to some degree, the head coach, well, they're not the GM. Those are two different things. In football, the head coaches do still have a pretty big impact in the decision-making. It's almost like a 50-50 type situation that happens in a lot of these organizations. It's hard to tell. Every organization does it differently. But, you do deserve some blame there. You deserve some blame for firing a coordinator. If you hired him, you fired him. You deserve blame for one of those two things, whatever one it is. And you deserve blame for not being able to really get anything going on offense. I mean, the glaring stat, only one win in his tenure were his defense gave up 17 points. I mean, that's just insane. You have to be able to win some games 23-20, right? That's just an insane stat that happened. And so the fact that, you couldn't find a way to do that, I think it's probably the right move for the Panthers. Is it the right move to do it now or at the end of the season or whatever? I never know with that stuff. I kind of think it's a lost season anyway. So I don't really, whoever you think will do the best at getting your young players in so that way they can, you can showcase them. Whoever you think will do the best job to do that, put that guy as the head coach. But at the end of the day, it's the right move to get rid of him this season, I think. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this situation? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.